Welcome to Scuderia Ferrari Racing News. Talks are already turning to 2012 in Maranello, but there are still some important goals on the horizon, such as aiming for second place in the Drivers' and Constructors' World Championship titles. With 5 races remaining, Nikolas Tombazis, Scuderia Ferrari chief designer, talks about prospects on Korea and Japan and brings us up to speed on the design of the new car.
We are currently in the phase of finalizing the main components of the car. We've obviously decided the fundamental layout of the car, the basic dimensions, the basic positioning of components, and we are some of the big pieces that need a fairly long production time, for example the chassis and the gearbox, are already in production, and other pieces with fairly long lead times, for example suspension and some internals, are also in the final stages of design. That is where we are production-wise. Of course, there's the big program of the car, which is, as always, the aerodynamics, is obviously ongoing. It has been going on for a few months, and it's got obviously a lot of more work to do in order to finalize all the aerodynamic configuration of the car. In terms of mentality or philosophy, we're trying to do everything that gives us the best possible chance for next year. So most of our work also for this year's car has some element of extrapolation for next year. For example, we will be testing some new components, for example a front wing in the next few races, which changes our front wing approach, how we design that area of the car. And we feel we're going to learn quite a lot of useful things for next year as well. Of course, that will hopefully also benefit this year's car, but the main approach is that we want to give the maximum for next year. One is that the regulations are not really that stable as people may perceive, because the elimination of the exhaust, or in any case the complete change of the exhaust regulations, is affecting one of the key areas of development of this year's cars. So therefore, having a different exhaust regulation is a major rule, not a minor detail. That said, okay, I have to accept also that the rest of the car rules are staying fundamentally unchanged, and therefore, as I said before, a lot of things are applicable to next year. I think that when you have a stable set of rules or relatively clear areas where you can act on and others where you can't, I think it's a bit easier to evaluate where your opponents can be and to give yourself hard, ambitious, but also accurate targets of what performance you need to achieve. So we've set ourselves these performance targets, and I think we are on line to achieve them. Yes, I think in 2 ways. One is the exhaust effect itself from an aerodynamic point of view was a very powerful one, and having now had it banned, or in any case changed massively, we still need to see is there any way that we can achieve similar effects and so on. So we have learned from the process, and we are trying to see how to minimize the effect of having changed a rule. Secondly, philosophically, or from an approach point of view, the fact that we missed, or we were late in the development of these concepts compared to our main opponents, is also something that has, I think, been useful as a lesson, because it's an area where opponents made a big step and they gained a huge advantage out of it in the early part of the season and remained ahead during the remaining part of the season. So clearly, if we had managed to be the first ones to step on that boat in the early part, we perhaps would have managed to have a much better season. So the reasons why we didn't quite manage to succeed in that respect is something that we have analyzed, and we're trying to change in the future so we avoid similar bad surprises. I think I can give 2 main examples. One is the relation of the aerodynamics to the rest of the car, to other areas of the car which are quite challenging to achieve but have an aerodynamic influence. I'm talking about the structures of the suspension, of the chassis, and so on. All of these areas have been put in question, and we've been developing a lot of these areas with the main purpose to benefit the car's aerodynamics. That has made the structural work a lot more complicated this year compared to previous years, but we feel it will have ultimately a very big benefit for the car's performance. So we've been a lot less conservative on some of the structural considerations of the car in order to give a much freer hand to the aerodynamics department to develop the best possible shapes and aero performance. Secondly, within the aero department, we have decided to spend a much bigger proportion of our time also testing new concepts and bigger ideas rather than small optimization of components. And this clearly sometimes may fail because we may have some idea that doesn't work, but I think it has also opened our horizons a bit, and I think that's paying benefits. I think it is very visually quite different to the previous cars, and I guess I can understand his reaction. Our objective there is not to just develop pretty shapes or different shapes, but hopefully to get him to say wow at the results rather than the shapes. That's the objective at the moment.
For the double interview slot, we have pitched Giuseppe Rizzo, chief mechanic on Fernando Alonso's car, against Filippo Miliani, chief mechanic on Felipe Massa car. Let's see how that goes.
Nome?
Giuseppe.
Filippo. Età?
41 anni.
36. Dove sei nato?
A Rometta, in provincia di Messina.
A Firenze. Qual è il tuo lavoro?
Meccanico.
Capomacchina sulla vettura di Felipe Massa. Da quanti anni sei alla Ferrari?
10 anni.
10 anni. Il tuo colore preferito?
Rosso.
Rosso. Il tuo pilota preferito?
Fernando.
Felipe. Il miglior pilota con cui hai mai lavorato?
Fernando.
Schumacher. Il più antipatico?
Barrichello.
Felipe. Donne e motori?
Cioè dolori?
Sì. Meglio un pilota simpatico o uno veloce?
Entrambi.
Veloce. La gara più bella?
Silverstone 2011.
Appena per arrivare. E quella più brutta?
Abu Dhabi 2010.
Ungheria 2008. Hai mai montato un pezzo al posto sbagliato?
Sì.
Sì. Il tuo circuito preferito?
Spa.
Monza. Il circuito che non sopporti?
Giappone.
Malesia. McLaren o Red Bull?
McLaren.
McLaren. Hai mai mandato a quel paese il tuo pilota?
Mai.
No. E lui a te?
Mai.
Sì, credo di sì. Hai mai picchiato il tuo ingegnere?
Mai.
No, mai. E avresti voluto farlo qualche volta?
Non quello attuale.
Sì. E venerdì sera e arriva il tuo ingegnere che ti dice che bisogna cambiare l'assetto. Cosa gli dici?
Magari blontano un po', ma lo faccio lo stesso.
Grazie, Rob. Più complicato montare una macchina o cucinare?
Non trovo differenza.
Cucinare. Meglio una vittoria o una bella donna a cena?
Dipende dai momenti.
Una bella donna a cena. La tua vacanza ideale?
Bella domanda.
Maldive. Lambrusco o Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Gramigna o Würstel?
Würstel.
Gramigna. Di qualcosa al tuo ingegnere?
Andrea, sei grande.
Rob, sei irlandese, ti conosco troppo bene. Di qualcosa al tuo capo?
Diego, sei il migliore.
Diego, dimmi cosa devo fare e lo faccio. E di qualcosa al tuo pilota?
Fernando, sei il numero 1.
Felipe, dai che ce la fai. Di qualcosa al tuo collega Filippo?
Filippo, sei un buon collega.
Beppe, basta.
Going into the Japanese Grand Prix, we met Rob Smedley. Who better than Felipe Massa's race engineer to reveal the setup secrets of the Suzuka circuit?
A lot of downforce. It needs to be a lot of downforce car is a quick car, but we also have to bear in mind that the drag penalty is high there. So you need a very efficient car, like most of the places. But the CL index, what we call the the grip of the tyres, which is generated from the downforce, is very high there, so that's a great requirement. And then we have to split the car setup in two parts, let's say. So you have the first sector, which is very, very high speed. There's no other sector like that in Formula One, commonly known as the S's. So we go through a series of 6-7 curves, very, very high speed, change of direction, extremely difficult on the rear tyres, especially in racing conditions. And then you're into more normal, so you come out of underneath the bridge and you go into a hairpin, and then you have spoon curve, which is a more normal, a long corner, requiring a lot of front end. And then the very final chicane, you have the famous 130R, but 130R is flat out. I mean, there's no problem for a modern Formula One car. And then you're into the final chicane, and the final chicane again is needing a good low-speed car where you need a good front end, change of direction, good mechanical traction. So the circuit is a real challenge for the engineers. Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about Spa-Francorchamps as being, you know, one of the greatest circuits, and it is a great circuit for engineers, for drivers, for the fans alike. But I would put Suzuka right up there in the same category as Spa. It's such a challenge because there's so much diversification of the corners. So you need to have a little bit of a different approach, because you need to be looking on straight away when you get there, where we're quick, where we're slow, and you know the direction that you need to take with the car, which is, you know, different year to year. You know, we're always confident we're a team of optimists, but it will not be an easy race for us. Certainly, we know that we possibly lack downforce compared to our direct competitors, and therefore that will put us in a slightly difficult position, let's say, in qualifying. Hopefully in the race, with bulk tyre overheating, with rear degradation, then we can be in good shape. So, you know, we're always there in the race. We always have been. There's very few races this year where we haven't been there in the race. So let's hope that, you know, qualifying, we will get the best result possible. Racing, obviously, it's a different picture. We'll be there racing. I have great memories, to be honest, of going to Suzuka. I really like the country. I like the people. I like the passion that the fans have. I mean, it's amazing when you're there on the grid or during qualifying, the amount of people there and the passion that they have for Formula One, and you know, the drivers and the teams, and it's such a special atmosphere. I think that my best memory there, you know, from a personal point of view, has to probably be with Felipe in 2006 in Ferrari in his first year, when he managed to out-qualify Michael, you know, and Michael was such a strong, formidable competitor really in Suzuka, you know, very, very difficult to beat. So to out-qualify him and to get the pole position in Suzuka, which is a real driver's circuit, in Felipe's first year in Ferrari was a really good memory. Yeah, I do like Japanese culture, because I think that the people there are very, very extremely different, to be honest, more different than any other culture. Then, you know, we can travel all around the world, but they're the most different culture that we come across. The people are very polite. It's a very gentle race. And I like that, you know, I like the fact that there is this formality, let's say, to the race. It's interesting to be part of for a short while when we're there. It's interesting to observe as well. But also you have the flip side of that culture, that they're extreme fans, you know. I mean, you can put them on the same level as the Italian Ferrari fans, let's say, in Monza when you go there, or you know, the Ferrari fans in Monza, not just talking about the Italians, which is really a special atmosphere for us when we go there every year and do the Grand Prix of Italy. You know, it's the same thing in Japan. You have these very reserved, quiet, polite, gentle race of people, and you put them in a racetrack and show them racing cars and they're heroes, and they go absolutely mad. So I really like the culture, yeah.
Now we are at the end. See you next time with Scuderia Ferrari Racing News.